early in the last 10 days of Ramadan. I went onto my Twitter, right? Don't ask me why. And I remember seeing this hashtag trending, Grenfell fire. Some have said it's one of the worst disasters that have happened in modern times. Can you tell us a bit more about how you got involved, what NZF has been doing, and what kind of impact that they've achieved?
Actually, for this very reason, it's a Ramadan I think none of us will ever forget. But I think very quickly, in the early morning, we very quickly realised that actually this was something a lot bigger. In terms of characterising this thing, it was, a lot of people say this was the biggest disaster to ever hit the UK since the Second World War. You know, it really did feel like a war zone. When we were deployed, the National Zakat Foundation were deployed onto the scene on that very first day. It very much felt like a war zone. You know, you had casualties coming in, you had people being told of, their loved ones being passed away, people looking literally on the streets for their loved ones. It was those moments that you really felt like you were right in the middle of something really quite serious. Something that really none of us really imagined would happen in the UK.
Can you recollect your first few days on the ground?
The first few days, although we were there to provide emergency support to people, actually people were less concerned about support. They were more worried about obviously the people that they wanted to find.
In that instance, they're not really worried about money or food or even clothing or shelter.
Absolutely.
They're worried about their son, their daughter,
that's the last
their mother,
thing on their mind.
and
In fact, that wasn't why we were there, to be honest with you. Although we were able to provide that support, actually we were just there to listen to them, just to let them know that their community, their brothers and sisters were there to support them. And it wasn't there just to provide that monetary support, whatever it may be. It was just to say, look, we're here, and if you need us, we'll be here.
Why did NZF feel it fit to go into such a situation?
In this particular situation, in a disaster zone, the immediate reaction from the community was to react like it was a disaster in another country. So you found that people were providing clothing, all the things that you associate with providing support, as though this disaster had happened in Syria or in Palestine or wherever it may be. Actually, if you think about it, Grenfell is half a mile away from one of the largest shopping centres in Europe. If people needed to buy something, they could. Actually, what we found was they needed support with cash. Because what did that give them? It gave them independence. It gave them a feeling of humanity, that control that they really needed. We were able to give them just that independence, that kind of control to go out and say, you know what, I'm going to go out and buy my own clothing. I'm going to go and buy what I want to eat.
So could you explain why they needed this cash in the first place?
So if we can just try and put ourselves in those shoes, this is no time to picking up your wallet or anything. In fact, this is a time to take your children and try and leave. So many were not even able to do that. But those who were able to escape, those who were able to evacuate from Grenfell Tower and the surrounding areas, they left with nothing. They may well have had money in there, but now they have nothing. And what we were able to do, was to basically provide them with that emergency support. To actually go out and look after themselves actually, because actually that's what we found that people wanted. They really appreciated the outpouring of support from the community when it came to the in-kind donations, whether it was clothing, whatever it may be.
Can you maybe recollect your meetings? What were the conversations like? What were the emotions like? How did you feel during this? And just tell us about those exchanges and what impact did your being there, what did that impact did that have?
It's something that we'll never forget. It's because we were able to see really human tragedies unfold in front of us. The stories we heard were very serious. Just to give you one example, a man with 3 children that we managed to find in a hotel. So someone actually directed us to them. So we went to see them, and in the shock and the trauma of everything, they were talking very matter of fact, but actually what they were saying was very serious. So they were talking about how they had lost a sister, or they had people had talked about how they'd lost their father, but because of the shock of it, they were unable to really kind of be emotive about it.
So it was like a straight up conversation.
It was very overwhelming actually, to have that conversation when something so extreme had happened to them. But yes, there were times when people broke down, and we were very blessed that we were able to, at least, we could never really lower their pain. All we could do, at least take one stress away from them, which is that practical need, that where are we going to eat? Even the most basic things like, where am I going to buy my children's milk formula? These things may seem small to us, but when you have nothing, actually these things are really important.
What was the support available to the families from the authorities. So example, were they staying, where are they staying right now, what kind of support was given then, what maybe are they able to get now, and also are there any, say, medium to long-term plans for the families?
At the very early stages, I think there's some consensus that the reaction from the authority was lacking. There was no real organisation in terms of what support was available, and really a lack of information. Since around perhaps day 7 after the disaster, families have been put in hotels. I think we need to appreciate that actually living in a hotel for long term is really a very stressful thing to do. Actually, it's not a nice place to be, and not being able to cook your own food or anything like that. So currently, as we speak, people are still in hotels. Very few people have been housed by the authorities, and this is where our support has been most vital in providing some of the support services that people have perhaps forgotten. Things like kind of children's services, children's activities to keep the children occupied, providing counselling services, whether it's housing advice, legal advice. All of these services are extremely important, and what's been important is to be able to provide that in a faith-sensitive manner. So in the medium to long term, we have brought under the National Zakat Foundation's special project, Benefit Muslim Response Unit. Their role now is to do an in-depth needs analysis of what is needed by these families in the medium to long term. That will include, as I said, things like kind of counselling, but also include things like training and getting people back into work. Grenfell is one of those things that at the time of it happening, it's in the psyche of the entire country. It was all over the headlines. But you'll notice already by now that it's already lowered down the headlines. And it will not always be in the public psyche. It will slowly dissipate, and the attention from the media will slowly dissipate.
There was a lot of public outcry, there was a lot of support while it was in the media, but now what we're finding is out of sight, so it's out of mind. But alhamdulillah, there is a special project under National Zakat Foundation called the Grenfell Muslim Response Unit, who will be continuing to support medium and long-term needs that the families will have until they are resettled into accommodation and beyond that.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
We want them to know, quite simply, the general public may slowly forget, but actually we will never forget. And we'll always be there.
Thank you.